All right, wow. Looks like I'm live for the first time in many years. Apologies if you see multiple streams or whatever. It took me quite a while to even get this to work because I don't know why. I guess live streaming on YouTube on a MacBook doesn't really want to work properly on Safari. I guess it only wants to work on Google Chrome. So I have an outline and some stuff I'm going to go over. So I'm going to do this in a second after I delete this other stream. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I don't actually expect anyone to show up on this because I did no notice and I haven't been active on here in many years. So that's kind of the point of what I wanted to cover in this whole thing. So I'm just going to start going over my outline. And then basically after I go over my outline, then I will interact and answer questions and all of that. So yeah, why did I stop doing YouTube? I think the first reason is basically just to have quiet and focus on training and other things that I was doing in my life because of the direction that things were going socially at that time, i.e. the pandemic and other factors were quite stressful and not stressful, but I mean, yeah, stressful, but also quite noisy and just kind of annoying. And in general, I just kind of took a break from social media for quite a while because, it was just kind of a ridiculous thing to observe over the last however many years. So that's part of it. And the second reason is I think social media in general is actually rather harmful to people's mental health and is making people a bit crazier and less intelligent and more reactive and more overwhelmed. It's kind of my general opinion. Obviously, there's exceptions, and can't really blame the media because basically it's just a tool. So a tool is only useful or not useful in the hands of whoever uses it. So it can be used for good, can be used for bad, can be used for neutral. Really just depends on who's using it. But I mean, I feel like comments and stuff on a lot of social media platforms in general is really quite harmful. And honestly, I don't read the comments on my channels, and I haven't in many years because many of them are quite negative and mean, and actually a lot of them are really hostile. It's weird. Like people will go off on these awful personal attacks and rants against some random guy on YouTube talking about tea or something. It's like, okay, I'll get those emails from my business as well. But for those reasons, just kind of like, this doesn't make sense. And I just boggles my mind why someone would be so hateful and unpleasant towards strangers, especially over something as trivial as tea or something. I mean, I feel like if I'm on here being like, oh, Trump 2020 or Biden 2024, or like saying something which, so I guess, I mean, I think it's still kind of irrelevant and trivial, but for a lot of people, it's more important. I can understand the level of reaction, but if I'm like, Gyno was great, and someone's like, oh, fuck you, you're horrible, and go on this huge rant, I'm just like, what are you talking about? So that's kind of the second reason why really stepped back and lost a lot of interest in social media at large. Like I don't follow anyone, I don't do anything, I'm not really active. I'm not really an information consumer the vast majority of the time. Like I don't read books, I don't listen to podcasts, I don't watch documentaries, I don't follow people on YouTube. I don't have people that I think are authorities or whatever. It's kind of like normal things people do. I just don't do it because I've kind of already had that phase of my life and I just more focused on other things, let's say. So that's kind of the first two reasons. The third is something that had bothered me for many years, and it's something maybe you're aware of as well, is that in general, people's thoughts and beliefs are already pretty much predetermined. So it kind of really doesn't matter what you say because it's unlikely they're going to really hear or even more so understand what you're saying because they're already operating from their pre-existing beliefs. And then basically they're taking whatever you say, or actually whatever they think you say, and then they're filtering it based on whether they agree or disagree, whether it supports or threatens their identity, and then the sort of what box or category it can put in. And it's kind of like in many ways dealing with people is like dealing in my personal feeling of it is dealing with like Pavlov's dogs, because you have to watch what buzzwords or slogans you say, or what you just like dancing through a minefield, because you can, at least for me, if I meet someone or I'm around people, I can usually see like where the minefield is, or if I know a person's a couple of their beliefs, I can usually guess the rest of them with a high degree of accuracy and probability, so I can know, where to not step and where to step and whatever. But we're dealing with, YouTube or a social media platform. You're dealing with people of a wider net, and you don't have that personal connection, so you can't really sense it. But um, so what that means is like I'll put in time, energy, and effort to try to cohesively make a point or share something. And then I feel like over however many years that I did YouTube, I don't really feel like there's that many instances where what I said was what people heard. uh, and how I really became hip to that is I started, for a while, I was really looking at comments, and I was looking at the negative ones, people disagreeing and saying mean things, and the positive ones. And what I realized that they had in common is neither of those had anything to do really with what I had actually said or was trying to communicate or was trying to get across or was trying to convey. It was just people reacting to what I just was saying as their own pre-existing beliefs and thoughts, and then sort of just somehow trying to mix mash what I was saying in with that. So then I kind of just realized like, okay, I don't really value those comments, positive or negative, because if someone's saying something nice about you, but they don't actually hear what you're saying or get what you're saying or really understand or listen, then it's like, how can you really invest in that? And if someone says something negative about you, but they don't really hear what you're saying, get what you're saying, or don't even try to listen or understand, then how can you really take that seriously anyways? Because what you arrive at is people are just reacting to their own feelings, their own subjective whatever. And I mean, that's just kind of basic psychology. We all live within our own nervous system, and that's how we understand the world. We don't actually experience the world. We just experience our nervous system interpretations based on memory and past events, etc. Unless you're a kid or, someone who's happy. So yeah, that's a big part of it, and that's also, it's not just YouTube. Like in general, I just don't say and communicate a lot to most people because of the same reasons. Because I just feel like in general the bandwidth is small, and I feel like over the years it's only gotten smaller because of social media and because of all the just tsunami avalanche of information that we're all kind of like submerged in all the time. Most of it being trivia, and most of it being not noise, most of it being like not useful. Um, because I mean, I feel like discernment, critical thinking, self reflection, self analysis, honesty, truth, those things are all much more important to me than most anything else. And I feel like those are all fairly absent on a large scale, but particularly on a lot of social media stuff, especially in the health world or political world or whatever. Um, so that's also why I don't follow and I don't really engage in my own personal life on that. The third reason, or I guess no, this is the fourth reason, is basically a few years ago, YouTube just deleted my account out of nowhere, no reason, no notification, no warning, no three strikes, you're out, just you're done. And business wise, that probably cost me a few $100,000 at least. I mean, actually, that was just within a year. I probably lost $250,000 just from that. But then if you compound that over uh, 4 years, however long it's been since that happened. So that was just YouTube out of nowhere, deleted it. That was it. And then I tried to appeal so many times and they just rejected it and gave me no response. And then I eventually was able to not talk to, but email an actual person on Twitter. And then they were like, oh, yeah, no problem. Here's your account back. But by that time, like, subscribers were dead, engagement was dead, viewership was dead, algorithm was dead. So it was kind of just like a lost hope and momentum for it. The other thing is that for the past however many years, I've been training like 4 to 5 hours a day. So sometimes it doesn't necessarily leave me like a lot of time or energy to want to spend hours in front of the computer as well, because I'm already doing hours in front of the computer with work and running the company. So those are all the reasons why I basically just wanted to step away from it and not really do it. Um, Hopefully that makes sense and you can relate. But I think I may start doing it again to some degree. I mean, I don't really know how or what, but business wise, it's very useful for my company and promoting my products and all this kind of thing. Even though I try to keep a good balance between products and just information that has nothing to do with products or nothing to do with buying anything. Because I mean, products are cool, buying things are cool, but I just don't want that to be my whole channel. And I just not that interested in products in general, so I don't have that much to talk about. So, whereas, over the last however many years, I've just been kind of sitting back and observing, doing a lot of, deconstruction and self-analysis and reflection on myself, but also with the all the crazy shit that's been going on in the world over however many years, and all the crazy shit that's gonna just keep happening and gonna be happening over the next however many years, and just watching how it has affected people, how it's affected me, and then just sort of kind of being able to project out and have some ideas and guesses for probably where it's going to go and how things are going to continue. But really for me, it's always trying to break it down to an individual human level, look at the actual mechanics, because people can say empty slogans, people can say, ridiculous political social things, but ultimately it comes down to um, like how that affects us and how we can interface with that individually. Because at least for me, everything that I say and pretty much everything that I have said in videos is something that I've pushed through myself first, usually for like quite a while. Because like people will sometimes be like, "Oh my God, you're so critical or judgmental in that video." I'm like, well, no, for one, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see how you might say that. But I've directed 10 times that to myself. And this is sort of what I happen to be externalizing or sharing or verbalizing on YouTube. Um, so I don't know. It's funny. It's funny to me the way people use saying something is critical or judgmental. If whatever you're saying is in alignment with whatever they already agree with, then they're not going to say that, even if it might be really judgmental or critical. But if it's what someone disagrees with or something that's maybe outside of their comfort or familiar frame of reference, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's generated a feeling in me that is uncomfortable or unpleasant. So now I need to negate the situation with some kind of ridiculous thing that doesn't necessarily even make sense. Um, so yeah, anyways, that's all whatever. Considered Substack. I don't actually know what that is. And I mean, YouTube has a lot of problems, a lot of issues, but it's also got the most viewers and the most traffic. So I don't know if I really want to venture out into another platform, but I'll open as a thing now. Yeah, okay, I see. It's like a paid newsletter. Okay, I have heard that. I did consider, like, if I do come back and be active, and if I'm actually going to do it, to do maybe a Patreon or something like Substack, something that's private and paid. It's private, I can speak a little more freely, let's say, and be a little more explicit about certain things. And also, if I'm getting paid directly, then I'll be like, oh, okay, I should put like more time and energy and like really organize it and really trim the fat and then really provide sources and examples of everything that I'm saying so people can kind of go and do their own research versus like 99.9% of all my other videos is just, oh, I have an idea. Oh, I'm going to sit down. Oh, I'm going to film it. That's it. That's pretty much has been my formula since 2010. Most of my videos have no editing, no cuts, no clips, maybe a rough outline, but it's just sort of, that's it. And I was honestly kind of nervous to even do any more videos since I hadn't done it in so long. I was like, oh, I might be rusty. But apparently not. Apparently I can just fucking rattle it out forever and ever. uh, but yeah, so I do have some videos outlined, and I just posted one a few minutes ago. I don't know if you have watched it yet. I mean, probably not. It's like 20 minutes, but I would recommend uh, checking that out. That one was pretty good. So I really like that one. So I'll probably do more stuff like that because, like it or not, my brain likes to take everything apart and see the causative factors in the relationships. And some people call that whatever, judgmental or being critical, but that's just how I'm built. So can't help you there. It's just like the thing is like the like 5 people or 3 to 5 people that I really respect that I consider to be teachers and mentors and have been really influential in my life are like exponentially smarter than me in many cases, more competent, more able, more skilled, and oftentimes more like critical and harsh and judgmental. I don't perceive it that way, but to other people they might because it hurts their feelings or something. But to me, it's kind of like, oh wait, thanks for telling me that. That's actually very useful. I mean, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, admit to myself how I've caused all these problems for myself and how convinced I am that it's true, but it actually might not be, and like all this stuff that's uncomfortable and unpleasant. But what's more uncomfortable and unpleasant, doing that or just living a lie for the rest of your life and having all the disease and stress and shit that goes along with it? To me, it's just a little more practical, but whatever. Okay, so that's all I basically had on my outline. I'm just gonna see. Do you mean Klaus Schwab's Great Economic Reset? Yeah, I mean that's definitely something I've read about, or not read about, but like watched a decent amount of content on, and it's something that I feel like is had an impact on the last few years and will probably have much more of an impact over the next few years, among many other factors, whether it's real estate or food supply or currency or economics or various pandemics or social media or microchips or digital currency or whatever. I mean, basically, I mean, life is always changing. That's normal. That's natural. Life's always been changing. But it's just all sped up now through primarily media and the exchange of information. So that, yeah. So I try not to go too deep into that stuff, but it's at a certain point, it's kind of like weird that people aren't more aware of it. But I talked about that a little bit in my video I just posted up today. So let's see. Oh yeah, Substack. Yeah, I'll look into that and have to like really plan. But then, um, so yeah. But the thing is, the issue. I guess I didn't mention that in the video so far. But the really main thing is like, mm, mm, I think just my identity isn't like an authority. It's not as a health whatever person. I don't really like to interface with people. I mean, if I know someone personally, then I can say like, oh yeah, maybe try this, maybe do that. You know, that's a little easier. But being like a health person or whatever on the internet, it's not something that I'm really comfortable with. Not something that I have not been comfortable with for many years now, which is large in part why I haven't been making videos, why the way I relate with customers via email is different. And honestly, I turn away a lot of customers. Like mostly what I've done over the last however many years is like actually get rid of business, like getting rid of products, closing the wholesale account, sending many customers away. I've fired a different variant, I don't know, maybe 10 customers, people that are rude, people that are hostile, just straight up fire them, refund their money, tell them to like never contact me again, like ban them from the website, stuff like that. um, so basically, that's kind of why I'm like a little nervous, like not nervous, but not super motivated because I don't see myself in that way. I don't see myself as like an authority or any of that stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way for me to do it that is exciting and enjoyable for me to do, but also provides value for people to want to engage with it. So I don't know. Haven't quite figured that out, but we'll see. Been following you since ponytail and pineal cleansing. Oh yeah, that's like 2010. That's like it's 12 years, man. That's a long time. So that's cool. The reishi keeps him young. Yeah, actually, the funny thing is, like, I don't really take reishi anymore. I haven't taken it in quite a few years, and I actually got a lot more grays. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if it's the herbs. Someone says, "What have you been experimenting with lately?" Not really much. I don't really take things other than just like calcium supplement, silica supplement, simple nutritive stuff. But one thing I can say that I have done recently that's cool is this here, which is basically like a wearable device, obviously. But let's see if if it has any more battery left. Yeah, basically, okay, it just turned on. So this is like a vagus nerve stimulator. I'll find the URL so you can look at it. But basically, it emits, I think, like a small electromagnetic field or something. Um, yeah, so I just put the link for this device called Ammo Fit. But in terms of like chilling out your vagus nerve, which is going to have a direct effect on stress, anxiety, depression, sleep, so many different things, I think it's the most potent device I've seen or tried, and definitely in most cases more effective than herbs or supplements. So if you're someone that is interested in toning your vagus nerve or even know what that means, I'd recommend the Ammo Fit. That's mostly the only thing that I've really been experimenting with. I guess that and this like neurofeedback system that I bought, that was like $10,000. It's quite an investment, but it's really more so what I needed rather than more herbs or whatever. So I mean, I just kind of trained for like 4 hours and do some neurofeedback here and there, just run, jog, basic, generic, boring core work. You know what I mean? Um, but I'll do some I'll do some content on the neurofeedback later on because I think for certain things it's really remarkable, and I mean even the technology is pretty incredible. But definitely check out the Ammo Fit if you're someone that's interested in vagus nerve toning. Let's see. Who are the 5 people? It's no one that you've ever heard of or probably would ever hear of because they're not online. Um, they're not really public figures in that way. And I guess one of them is, but I'm not really gonna get into that. But because it's kind of my personal deal. Uh, but yeah, it's not really no online people. Definitely not Alan Watts. I mean, I think Alan Watts, he's a great orator. He's definitely a great entertainer. He's a great speaker. He's very entertaining, very easy to listen to. I think his actual understanding level of Eastern traditions is extremely low. I think his experiential level of those things is even lower, but I don't blame him. He is pretty much just the same as like Ram Dass and Tim Leary and mostly all the people that came after them, in that they just had their pre-existing framework, encountered something new, and then just jammed the quote unquote new thing into their pre-existing framework, which isn't really accurate and doesn't really represent what those traditions are. But I mean, I get it. It's difficult. It's hard. It's foreign. So it's like, how can you relate to something you've never experienced and you have no frame of reference for? Well, the only way you can do that is by trying to put it in frame of reference to what you have experienced, which kind of negates it because it's supposed to be this new, completely unique thing. But now it's just what the old thing is, which it's not just them. This is what people do. This is what I've been talking about for years because it's a major human limitation, I think. Um, because, and it's just kind of disrespectful to the traditions and the people that, you know, came before it, or, not came before it, but yeah, I guess, yeah, came before. Um, but again, it's basically, I would say, what 99%, actually 99.9 or 99.5% of people that are doing those things now are still doing the same thing. They're just trying to take something and putting it in the context of what they already know and just recreating the same shit over and over again. Which is another funny thing is like, you know, 10 years ago, I was making videos about how New Agers were Christians and raw vegans were Christians and vegans were Christians and all these people in these kind of extreme health camps were actually and functionally just Christians, even though they were kind of against it. But then it's been amazing to watch over the last like 10 years how many of those same people that I said that are now actually Christian, and how many of those people that were all the way over there have swung all the way back over to basically being kind of like Christian conservative Republicans, which is what I said 10 years ago. And everyone's like, or 12 years ago, everyone's like, oh, you're an asshole. You're arrogant. Oh, you're wrong. Why would you say that? I'm just like, okay, we'll see, guys. Because I was just talking about underlying mechanics, because it's just kind of like the operating system, or I mean the operating system, the code your operating system runs on. So I mean, if you can look at see what the actual BIOS or the actual like hard code is in the system, then you can kind of predict what's going to come out of it, whether it's I'm for this or I'm against this, or I'm against this but I'm for this. It's all fairly predictable and not really that interesting or noble or evolved or any like whatever. It's just I like ice cream. I don't like ice cream. I like ice cream. I don't like ice cream. Okay, who cares? It's not that important. Anyways, so yeah. Do you ever dabble with red light therapy? I think it's cool, definitely for people with inflammation and compromised digestive systems and things where you know sometimes topical is the way to go, because doing through this way is not going to be really that useful. So yeah, I think it's great. I do it sometimes. There's a lot of sort of biohacking places near where I live, so I can pop in there and do like a superhuman protocol, or different combinations of red light, PEMF, or whatever. So that stuff's definitely cool. It's fun. I don't really make a career out of it, like, I don't know, a lot of biohackers do, because I think that's kind of neurotic. Like Ben Greenfield and Dave Asprey and some of these other people that are quote unquote health authorities. But when I look at them, I don't see a healthy person. I see a very unhealthy person that is stressing themselves out by doing all these quote unquote healthy things. But again, these are also people that just have a certain mechanistic Christian sort of like scientific worldview. And then everything that comes out of it is somewhat predictable. So, but again, it's cool. It's entertaining. So I definitely, check it out, recommend it, especially because depending on what you have going on, it can be very helpful and useful. What would you say your main focus has been lately? Just training, basically. That's it. I mean, 4 or 5 hours a day, every day. Unfortunately, I need to probably take some days off sometimes, but that's pretty much it. Just do that. Maybe some neurofeedback, and then just try to, yeah, that's pretty much it. Work on my company, work on my business. My life is pretty simple and streamlined and boring and fairly, yeah, I mean, I like it. It enables me to do a lot, but it's definitely lacking in stimulation and excitement and whatever else. So like, it's funny because last week or 2 weeks ago, I was getting some Thai massage from a local person. They were just like, you just seem really bored. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you're just always like this. It's like a lot of my clients come in and some days they're up here, some days they're down here. It's like, you're just always this. Maybe it's like a slight little derivation, but it's just, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, I've lived on that chemical roller coaster of adrenaline, and I've lived on so many different emotional roller coasters and chemical roller coasters, and now I'm just kind of like, that's fine, but it's a little bit tiring, and it's also just kind of predictable. You can see, oh, if I do this, this is where it's going to go. So okay, I don't necessarily need to do that now. Or you feel something come on, you're like, oh, I know what this is actually about, so I don't actually need to participate or act this out. Usually, I mean, we're all human, so sometimes you still gotta roll with the punches, let's say. So yeah, can you tell me any adverse reaction from black seed oil? Honestly, I don't know anything about black seed oil. I'm not familiar with it. I've never taken it. I think it's like cumin, but it's again, it's another one of those things people swear by. It's a miracle thing, and for some people, it might have the thing that they need, so that's cool. Personally, I don't know anything about it, and so I can't really comment. How would you recommend getting started with vagus nerve? Check out the Indiegogo link I posted above for this device. I mean, it's like you pretty much can't get easier than pressing a button and putting it on. And it's definitely stronger than any of the vagal toning exercises that you can find. I mean, there's plenty of vagal toning exercises on YouTube if you look around. But honestly, this is definitely stronger and more noticeable and easier. So that's kind of what I would recommend in terms of that whole scenario. I think it can really make a difference, and for a lot of people, lower the stress. For me, I noticed a big difference when I started wearing it, and I've been wearing it fairly constantly for the last few weeks, and I've recommended it to a few other people that I know that could benefit as well. So I would recommend checking it out if you are so inclined. But other than that, I think I covered what I wanted to cover in terms of my question or my whatever outline that I had about why I stopped doing YouTube. And I think I've answered all the questions. So I'll probably head out in just a few minutes because it's already been half an hour and it's dinner time for me. I need to go eat because I'm old and I like to eat earlier. So yeah, I'm honestly really surprised that even this many people showed up. Like, I haven't been active on here at all in however many years. So I was really expecting to just pop on, read my outline, and then be out of here. So it's cool. There's 20 or something more people on here. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions. You would probably want to get them in here in the next few minutes before I dip out. Or if you watched the recent video I just posted, I'd be curious to see what people think about that, to see if it made sense or not, or if it was just complete gibberish and hyperbole. I try to be somewhat specific and clear on the mechanics, but also a little bit vague on the specifics, just to like dodge the different minefields that offend people, which is just seems to be an increasing number of things.
How will you know?
Oh, there's the video. It looks like finally the HD version has rendered, so the video quality is a little bit better. I got our first spam comment. Great. Definitely missed those. How can you read a person's health by looking at them beyond being skinny or fat, like Ben Greenfield, for example? I mean, that is actually it's a good question. I mean, I don't really look at skinny or fat. It doesn't really necessarily, because I mean, fitness and health aren't the same thing. I think we have to understand that someone can be very fit but not very healthy. Someone can be very healthy but not very fit. They don't go together. Plus, our idea of physiology and body type doesn't necessarily have any basis in health. But also, I mean, at least in America, a huge chunk of the population is obese, literally obese. So clearly, it's not something we have a real grasp on. um, but I would say what stands out, uh, like, if you're spending all day every day, I mean, I just give the dude has to take. It doesn't have to, but it takes like ketamine before he gets a massage. Like the thing is like if you, I guess the easiest way to explain it is if you were to take someone's behavior, like him, for example, and just go back 10 years and drop him in, or 20 years, drop him in, everyone's going to be like, this guy's fucking insane. Like, he has real problems. They used to call it orthorexia, meaning the obsession with being too healthy. So, I mean, that's kind of in the simplest, easiest terms. Like, to me, it's blatantly obvious that's what's going on. The other thing is, I can just sort of listen to people talk and get an idea of their mental degree of mental tension. I can look at their body. So I guess that's just reading body language and subconscious cues. It's not necessarily always something obvious. But I mean, and I think, yeah, also I've seen videos where the dude actually moves. And to me, I'm just like, whoa, okay, I can see kind of how his body is structured and shaped and where the most of the tension is and what things are moving around and what's not moving. I'm just kind of like, oh, gee, whoa, that's not looking good. Um, and just, yeah, the fact that someone is doing so much all day, every day, like to keep all of that propped up and to keep all of that information, um, this is like a lot of work. And that's kind of one of the main things that I tried to get across years ago and probably will keep repeating forever is I don't think people realize the amount of stress and tension that a lot of these ideas and philosophies require to hold and maintain, which is usually a lot. I mean, I guess in a physiological sense, if you put yourself in a really weird posture and then tensed everything up and tried to hold that, you're going to get really tired really quickly, but they're doing the same thing mentally, and that becomes someone's identity, and it just becomes this snowball effect. And it's just kind of my opinion that that's not very healthy. Why isn't it very healthy? Because it's just consuming a ton of energy, and it's creating sort of, it creates like a lopsided situation. So then now this is lopsided, so I need to something else to like keep this propped up, but then now this is this is like distorted, so I need to do something else to keep this propped up, but then I need to go back here and reprop this up, and it's just constant. It's like a game of whack-a-mole, which is, I guess, another example of why I don't really think a lot of people will really get well with psychedelic usage. Obviously, there's examples, and it depends on the person's mindset, and if they're kind of like one and done, or like I got the message, hang up the phone, that's kind of a different thing. But the majority of people will make a career out of it, meaning it will become part of their identity, and this like experience that was cool, now it's they're going to carry it on for the rest of their life. It's like, to me, it just seems quite the absence of health. But why I would say that is, basically, I don't know if you're aware of this, but recently there was a meta study of all the literature and data on the connection between serotonin and depression, which was kind of the underlying mechanism behind SSRIs and many other drugs. Basically, it was found that there was actually no connection. There was no evidence for a connection, that the whole thing was kind of conjecture and probably marketing, although that's not really, the study obviously didn't say it in those terms, but it's kind of, I mean, money makes the world goes around. It's not that difficult to really fathom. Um, so that was recently kind of out the window. Not that it's going to make any difference or anyone even knows about it, but in general, these kinds of drugs are kind of old and they're losing their patents and many other causative factors. Whereas now, like psychedelics is kind of the next wave of what's probably going to be turned into patented drugs and going to spawn a whole new genre of, on one side, basically straight up Brave New World, like Aldous Huxley's legitimate novel is a pill for everything. That's very likely how that it could go, because it's in the hands of people that don't really know what they're doing and aren't really projecting ahead or calculating cause and effect. They're just sort of looking for profit. And then consumers are just looking to get high or stimulate their ego or just alleviate some suffering, which is obviously legitimate. On the flip side, it could, it very well could help a lot of people. I've seen some good stuff about PTSD and a lot of other kind of small situation, not small, but chronic or kind of pinpointed things that it can help alleviate. But in terms of like your average person who actually hasn't really experienced legitimate traumatic events and isn't really that affected by it, more of like kind of a career neurotic person or just kind of a normal millennial that uses social media that's constantly being like, oh, maybe this is wrong with me, maybe that's wrong with me, I'm going to go to therapy, now this is wrong with me. And someone that's seeking out traumas in their life, this is like, if you have to look for evidence of trauma in your life, it means you probably don't really have it, because if you did, you would know, it would be obvious. Like, you know what I mean? I guess if there's an example, like you wake up with night terrors every night, then yeah, you might have to be like, well, what's causing this? But if otherwise you're functional and you're just looking for little things, be like, oh, I guess that was a trauma. Oh, my mom did tell me my shoes were ugly when I was 7, so maybe that is a trauma. It's like, it's not a trauma. Like I had this conversation with a few people recently, and then they're like, oh yeah, I just really had, I got PTSD, and my therapist told me this and all these like really negative experiences. And I'm like, well, hold on. You've been able to hold down a job for a long time. You sleep fine. Your digestion's fine. You have long-term relationships are fine. You don't really have physiological issues. Basically, you're able to live your life fairly normally. So I'm not seeing a lot of hindrances or impediments to your normal functioning. Therefore, I don't really think that I would consider what you are classifying as being a trauma. I mean, I know now it's 2022 and nothing means anything and everything means anything at this point. So sure, but in terms of, the world based on logic and pragmatism and rationality and definitions of terms, then I don't think that really matches. But why I say that is because it's already getting more and more trendy, and it's probably going to get even trendier. So my point is that for a lot of people, I don't think it's actually going to really help them. I think actually for a lot of people, it makes them more unhealthy and more deluded and more confused. Why I really thought of this is Aaron Rodgers, quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, is, started to go public about being, doing ayahuasca and all this stuff, which he's talking all this stuff about unconditional love and whatever. And I'm just kind of like, I get what he means, but what he means, I don't think is what that word means, meaning unconditional love. Because for one, you had to do ayahuasca to experience it, which is a condition. And if you're having, I gotta have unconditional love for myself, well, the condition of that is that it's yourself and relating to yourself, which is again confusing. And he's just listing off all these things which are conditions, but then saying how it's unconditional, which is not true. So he's just meaning something else, but then using a different word, but then building an identity off of that, getting rewarded for the identity with other people, the collective delusion. It just creates this whole confused mix. When in reality, most of the time they just took a drug and got hit with a bunch of neurotransmitters that made them feel a certain way. And then they made a lot of assumptions based on that. But whatever problem they probably had will just show up in another way, or will just get continually worse because now their identity is at odds because they have to uphold this new self-image that they created, which again, seems like a lot of work, seems like a lot of stress, and is ultimately, I don't think, actually healthy. Because being calm and at ease and comfortable, to me, that's healthy, normal, natural. So that's kind of my metric, my definition. And if things are taking us out of that, then it's pretty easy to be like, yeah, it's probably not that, healthy for the long term. Anyways, yeah. Let's see. When is your next live? I don't know. I really wasn't planning on doing a live, and I thought no one would show up, and I was just going to come on here, read the thing, and then be done. So I don't know. You might have missed the part earlier where I was considering maybe doing a Substack or like a private thing that's more one-on-one or more curated or just a little higher quality than just, hey, I'll pop on YouTube for a few minutes. I love Hisha Wu. Come out with Shazandra and Racy. Really amazing stack. Glad it works for you. It's good to hear. Thanks for popping on. Good to see you. Good to see you as well. It's been many years. Do I still recommend Shazandra? Yeah, I think I think Shazandra can be great. So, I sell it. It's on my website. So I would say that I recommend it. I like the one that I sell just because I know how it was made and I know what's in it. I know it's good quality and it's quite potent at low dosage. So there's that. What do you think about these people who take tonic herbs every day their whole life? I think Ron Teagarden claims to do that with reishi. I mean, it's fine. It's cool. Whatever people are into. I think personally that doesn't appeal to me because it's, again, just a great example of what I've been talking about, or just forming a static identity versus off of like 1 to 3 novel experiences and then just milking that for all it's worth for the rest of your life. To me, that's boring because I like to grow and learn and experience new things and change and develop as a person, not just, oh, this is who I am. This is going to be for the rest of my life. And this is my shtick. And you know me, so you can predict everything I'm going to say, I'm going to do because I'm a caricature of a human being. It's not really interesting to me. I don't know. I don't think I could do it if I tried. So when I think of Teagarden, I just think of kind of Johnny One Note, and been saying the same thing since the 70s and going to probably keep saying the same thing forever. And that's it. But cool. I mean, I kind of admire people who are able to do that. I personally can't do it. So, yeah. What do you think about bitters? I think they can be useful. It probably depends on the quality, of course. But again, bitters depends on what herbal system if you're going to use. People are like, oh, bitters stimulate your liver, so it stimulates digestion, which makes sense. But then Chinese medicine, bitter stimulates the heart and the fire element, which is very different than the liver. But I mean, if you like it, then go for it. It helps you. Sure. I think some people are stuck in trauma to the point they create trauma. I feel like the world has changed a great deal since you did the last live stream. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it also depends on how you define trauma. Like being a child raised during a war zone in Afghanistan or Ukraine, that would probably be traumatic. Having parents that were abusive alcoholics, fighting with each other all the time, hitting you and stuff, that would be traumatic. Being abandoned as an infant, that would probably be traumatic. Like, to me, that strikes as trauma. Someone not using your right pronouns or not saying the political belief that you agree with, that's not a trauma. That might be like slightly stressful to you or annoying, but that's not a trauma, I don't think. Like Bill Burr had a rant about this when he was like, oh yeah, bravery. He's basically like, oh, a moderately overweight woman goes on a magazine cover and it's like, oh, you're so brave. And he's like, well, what about the dudes fighting in Afghanistan, or like a firefighter runs into a building to save a child? Is that not brave anymore? So, I mean, yeah, it's just the time we live in is all these structures are decaying and falling apart, and everyone's afraid, everyone's scared. So some people are grabbing and holding on to whatever was old and familiar, which is why when Trump ran, it was make it great. It was make America great. When Boris whatever ran and Brexit and the whole thing, it was like make England great. It was all this. It was basically a nostalgia play because of that demographic felt probably a certain way based on how things were going. So they wanted to like cling on to this idealized fantasy of how the world was in the 50s or whatever, which just had some truth and a lot of, again, fantasy. Whereas a lot of other people were just basically being like, tear everything down, screw everything, out with all the old. And you can see it in media. I mean, Disney's doing this with most of their things. A lot of the movie remakes, they bring back these old characters just to like obliterate them and make them look terrible. So, I mean, it's just kind of a social trend right now. Personally, I think it's stupid. It doesn't appeal to me or interest me at all. And I think people are just kind of not looking forward to consider the consequences of their actions on a wider scale, because they're probably either stressed or just really self-absorbed and narcissistic and small-minded and not too bright. But that's just my opinion. But I'm like a cynical, arrogant asshole. So what do I know? But at the same time, it's kind of the vibe, what's in the air, and people need to change and tear things down. So whatever. I mean, it is what it is at this point. It's nothing we can really do about it other than just kind of tend to our own garden, I think. My 2 cents is psychedelics are value-changing drugs. Person generally doesn't need to do that their entire lives. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if someone kind of gets in and gets out and has like an intelligent way of doing it, like, oh, I have something that I want to get a different perspective on, so let me go in here, get a different perspective, and then move on with my life. Sure. I mean, there's always exceptions, but the vast majority of people aren't going to do that. I mean, the vast majority of people that do anything aren't very competent. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It's ballroom dancing or NASCAR driving or basketball or playing guitar. Like the vast majority of people that do that activity aren't very good or competent. It's just whatever it is. I mean, it's just how we roll as humans. Any tips on finding a good massage or bodywork practitioner? I used to talk about craniosacral. Yeah, I mean, part of it is you just gotta look around. If you have the budget, you just kind of got to spend money. But also kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you find someone does visceral and cranio, then that's good. I mean, I think if I were to simplify it, I think in terms of actual tissue work, Thai massage is probably just the easiest, the most efficient in terms of just like gross open tissues and break up stuff and do whatever. I think Swedish massage is kind of a waste of time. Deep tissue, all those kind of like Western modalities, I think are kind of dumb and don't really do much other than temporarily relax people, kind of, sort of. I think Thai massage is better, more intelligent, or shiatsu, I guess, is similar, has also some crossover slightly. So I would maybe look for those if that's the kind of thing you're wanting. If you're wanting something more specific and dialed in, then someone who does like visceral manipulation and cranio would probably be a good way to go. Would love to see you do some YouTube shorts. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what those are. I don't know how to do it, but maybe I'll get schooled as a YouTuber eventually. I don't know. Maybe I'll become a professional YouTuber and become a caricature of myself and just invent a version of myself that's Johnny One Note. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for the kind words, and hopefully I'll be more active. We'll see. I remember your old did still follow you on Instagram. Sandra Godey tincture is amazing. Still buy Gynostemma all the time. Yeah, thanks. Like Shazandra Goji tincture is quite good. We were just talking about that earlier. So yeah, definitely it's quite good. Gynostemma is really good. I really like both of those products. So yeah, you have very good taste. Let's say. Yeah. Man, I can't believe there's so many people showed up for this. It's like boggles my mind. keep thinking, I think like I need to get off here. I need to go eat dinner, but then more people show up. So yeah, like I said, hopefully you've watched my most recent video, the one I just posted earlier today. I would check that out. Oh, spam comments, cool. Let me. Also, if you don't know this, if anyone posts spam or like basically if anyone posts spam on the channel, it's an automatic ban. Or if anyone is hateful or has personal attacks, automatic ban. I just don't. I don't really care or have time for that any of that stuff. Same thing for my business too. If someone is rude, hostile, and says just unkind things, then pretty much out the door. I don't really have time for all that. Like if you don't have basic manners, then I don't really know, or basic communication skills. There's really no point. Let's see. Are you still doing martial arts? Yeah, I guess. Tai Chi. I wouldn't really consider that a martial art in the sense of like jujitsu or MMA or something. To me, those are actual martial arts because you can pretty quickly and directly use it for fighting. Nothing I do has any fighting basis at all. I wouldn't consider myself at all proficient in fighting. So maybe someday, maybe I'll learn and explore that side of things. I was thinking about taking some like Thai boxing classes just for fitness and for fun and kind of a different way of using the body. So, that could be cool. I guess one of the last questions, what's for dinner? I'll probably go to Chipotle, to be honest. I've been cooking the last few nights and so I'll probably go out and just do whatever. Yeah, it's funny. I've just been eating so much less lately, just because for whatever reason, early this year I started gaining a lot of fat. Even though I'm like, well, my digestion's better, I eat less, I sleep better, it's putting on fat. So just been eating a lot less, but then also still I eat like Burgerville, which is like a local fast food chain, and then Chipotle sometimes because it's cheap and no hassle. It's because there's like annoying trend with restaurants putting TVs everywhere. So like TV everywhere you look, and then have all those going, and then turn up really shitty music, really loud. And I'm kind of just like, what the fuck planet are you guys on? Like, what are we doing here? Is this why I'm like, yeah, I want to pay $20, $30 to sit in this environment and get pummeled by things that I don't want to watch. If I wanted to watch TV, I'd stay at home. I came out because I wanted to eat food that I didn't cook that's hopefully delicious in a meal or in an environment that's hospitable and calming. But so many restaurants are just like, or they're playing like Iron Maiden, not Iron Maiden, but like modern shitty metal. And I'm like, this is a Japanese restaurant. It's funny, there's a restaurant nearby me. This is a great example of this. It's basically like fine dining. Like, I mean, a small plate's $15 to $18 for like 4 potatoes, right? Everyone that goes there is pretty, I mean, just because the area it's in, people are fairly affluent, fairly wealthy, whatever. But the music is 90s, like Tupac, Notorious B.I.G., like Bone Thugs, Cypress Hill. Just like, dude, what the fuck? Who's thinking this through? Is fine dining is expensive. I mean, it's not fine dining, but it's expensive in an affluent area neighborhood, which primarily is older white people. I don't think they give a shit about 90s hip hop or 2000s hip hop. And then another restaurant is the same thing, except it's aggressive. Like, I don't even know what to call it. It's just really loud people screaming with, I don't know if you call it death metal or scream core, or I don't even know. I'm so out of touch, but it's just that kind of 220, 250 BPM double bass guitar shredding, screaming, like throat screaming. I'm just like, this is a place that charges $20 for a sandwich. Like, what in the actual fuck? So, I mean, I thought about just creating a burner Google account and just going on Google and just like starting to just tell these people, like, hi, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, you charge $30 for an entree and you're playing Cypress Hill. What kind of ambiance, like, what kind of environment are you going for here, guys? This is, and it's not like it's a hip, cool, kind of edgy, modern, younger demographic restaurant, which could make sense with trying to create that environment. It's not that at all. But it's just, I don't know. I just think, okay, we don't understand digestion, clearly. We don't understand stress, clearly. We don't understand, I guess, socializing anymore because then everyone's on their phones. So it's like TVs, loud, shitty music, phones. It's kind of like, what happened? Like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Like, so just don't really go to those places anymore. And usually just try to eat at home or go to places that are actually quiet and not run by complete fucking degenerates. I don't know, man. It's just a pet peeve of mine. Any thoughts on the social side of community involvement? I started doing open nights. I mean, yeah, I think it's great. We're social creatures. We need social stuff, you know. I mean, we need that in connection. Just for me, I don't really like most people, if I'm honest. I mean, it's just kind of what I've had to admit to myself. And also just based on where I live, I don't necessarily feel like it would be quite like-minded, is another way of saying it's highly likely people would be pretty left-leaning. You know, I mean, I guess if I wanted to go protest and burn down a garbage can or do property destruction or rioting or looting, I'd have a much easier time of finding people to socialize, or if I wanted to drink a lot. But none of those are particularly interesting. So I don't know. I'm just really not worried about it. I have friends. We hang out. Whatever. But I mean, I highly recommend it, especially if it's enjoyable to you. But anyways, yeah, I should probably go and get off here because I need to get some dinner. Ever since selling Hyperion Lacuna, yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, it just basically comes down to like cash flow. Like, to be totally transparent, like I've just been getting screwed left and right over the last few years, whether it's a fulfillment center losing $30,000 of products, a packaging center losing $30,000 of products, shipping costs going way up, inflation going way up, Facebook ads getting way more expensive because iOS 14 and Apple took a shit on the whole digital marketing. So advertising got exponentially more expensive and exponentially less effective. Hired an agency to work with me that was totally shitty. That was another $25,000 just fucking gone. Let's see, and a bunch of other stuff that I've forgotten, fortunately. So yeah, not to mention my suppliers raising the costs, supply chain issues, supply chain shortages, suppliers being closed for months because of lockdowns, customers being assholes. A year ago, I like had a concussion and like fucked my head up for a while. I had that. So I mean, I can just keep going with things that have been fucked up and things that have caused my costs to go way up. So that's led to just eliminating a lot of products just to basically manage cash flow, because to be totally honest, like the vast majority of my sales come from the top 5 products. I mean, if you go to the website, go to bestsellers, it's literally the best sellers, and it's not proportionate. It's quite actually most of the sales are from like the mushrooms from 5 products. So it's just kind of like I have to spend thousands of dollars to do a batch of another product that it might take me, I don't know however many months to get that money back versus another one which sells faster. So it just comes down to cash flow and efficiency. Also, it's just easier for me to manage inventory on less products than it is to manage inventory on like 30 products, because it's bags, labels, shipping, packaging. So it's also just like, after all that stuff that had happened, in addition to like all the other stuff that had happened before, like I just kind of lost mostly all my passion and interest in business and health related stuff. And I felt like then the direction that kind of society and social media was going, I was like, I don't really have any interest in dealing with people. I don't really want to deal with anyone, so just leave me alone. That was kind of my attitude. So I'm trying to, work my way out of that. It's not necessarily a place you want to live forever, but for a little while it was fine. Just to like kind of re-examine and try to integrate with things. So that's part of the reason why some things came, some things went. And then, once I get to another place and things kind of get going again, then, maybe I can bring stuff back. But I also have some formulas in the works that are really great, actually, and will be pretty much best of the best for what they are, in terms of one's an immune formula and one's like a cognitive kind of enhancement formula. And they're both extremely effective. Honestly, in my opinion, they're the best of any of those types of products that have ever been created. I just haven't released them yet. I've just been sitting on them for the last couple of years while I'm trying to sort out cash flow situations and just kind of and then I also didn't mention it, like my website broke like last month. So then for like 3 weeks or something, my website just really wasn't usable. So I didn't really make much money. And then on top of that, I had to spend like $5,000 to hurry up and get a new website built that was actually functional, which for the long term, it was great, but it just means money goes out, not coming back in, which is not really where a business wants to be. So just growing pains, trying to sort things out while I'm trying to also sort myself out, which I'll talk about that a bit more, talk about neurofeedback, talk about sorting out different things, mental things and whatever, over however when I make videos and stuff. Let's see, you need to sell at an outlet, an actual store. Yeah, I mean, I would if I had the margins, but I don't have the margins, to be honest, to sell. Because stores usually want anywhere from 40 if you're lucky, but usually it's more like 50 to 60% plus samples. Plus, you got to hold their hand and educate them, and got to do a lot of work. Plus, you got to make sure you keep everything in stock. So I honestly just don't have the margins to make that realistic, which is why I closed my wholesale side of the company a few years ago for the same reason, because I don't really have 40% discount to like give to people, especially at low volumes. So yeah, I mean, hopefully things can change and maybe get into a better place. But the thing is, like, I could get cheaper versions of everything that I sell. Like, I could easily tomorrow get versions of every product that I sell that cost me a fraction of what I pay, and then I'll have way better margins. And then, yeah, I could do wholesale, I could do sell in stores, I could do all kinds of different things, but it's just not as good. The quality isn't there. So I don't do it. Like my lion's mane, for example, I made the video saying why it's so much more expensive, which I raised the price $15, but my actual costs more than doubled. So it wasn't a proportionate increase. So kind of, makes sense. Yeah. So anyways, to be totally honest, I mean, the only thing that's really kept me going throughout all the stuff is, the handful of people that are actually really cool, like people in the chat right now, which no one's actually using their real names. So I'm not going to start reading out like fucking screen names and handles, but like it's what I was saying earlier, is like when I put out videos and stuff or do whatever, I feel like the vast majority of people don't hear what I'm saying. They don't get it. They're just reacting to their own shit. And part of me is like, well, fuck it. How am I going to do that? But then it always comes back to, the smaller percentage of people that I've met through YouTube, through my company, that are actually really cool, and people that, like, if I sat down next to them at a bar or a restaurant, we'd probably actually want to have a conversation, whereas I can tell some customers email me and I'm like, okay, like I'm avoidant over email. Like, I don't want to engage with them over email because I can kind of tell what kind of person they are. But people, on here that we're talking, it's like, if we met at a bar or at a restaurant or something, like, we would actually want to probably hang out and chill and have a conversation and talk about all kinds of shit. So that's cool. That's honestly the only thing that was really been kind of the silver lining, um, for me over the years. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a new chapter for me, and it's a new chapter for the world. A lot of crazy shit going on. And yeah. So I think someone said, do you have any plans to leave Portland? Yeah. Funny thing is, I never spent more than 3 months in Portland since I moved here until the pandemic. And then I was here for years. Basically, the plan now is I'll possibly move to Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, maybe, um, something like that, or just travel for an extended period of time. I just kind of want a fucking break from the psychic cloud that is looming here, and that just infects mostly everyone that I meet. Um, it's really a weight. And I just kind of want to break from it to kind of experience it, to be able to say basic things to people and have basic conversations and not have people be like, oh my God, that's insane. That's crazy. And I'm just like, I don't know, dude. I thought that's just what the words meant. Um, so that's kind of my rough plan. I mean, it could change. I don't know. But I would like to do some traveling in that capacity. Um, if not, maybe I'll like go to Florida or Arizona for the winter or something. I'm kind of conflicted because there's a lot of things that I can complain about here, but also a lot of good things and good quality of life, and plus my friends and 8 years of connections. But yeah, I mean, Bali is beautiful, awesome, and it has its drawbacks as well. I've done research on it, and yeah, I think the Bali digital nomad visa isn't actually available yet. It's still in talks because I think the president or someone's trying to push it, but it's not actually a thing yet. Last I checked, anyways, it's not actually a thing yet, but it's still, there's ways to get visas and ways to get around it, whether it's Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, whatever. I mean, the thing is, once I'm over there, my cost of living will decrease dramatically, and I'll still be able to have a quite nice quality of life, plus beaches, temples, whatever else, and just the vibe for training is actually better. Who would have thought? Because actually, generating yang qi in the Pacific Northwest is kind of shit. From what I've experienced, it's not really that good. So you're having to overcome the environment. Recently, I traveled. I went back to Louisville. As soon as I got there, did some training the morning after not eating. I had like one small meal that day. I didn't really sleep that much. Had been up for a full day or something, so shouldn't have been feeling very good technically. And then did a little bit of training. Was like, oh shit, what's all this warm electricity in my tissues? Oh, I got some yang qi. And then once I went to my other destination on the East Coast, I was like, oh shit, even more. And then once I came back to Portland, it's kind of like, if here it feels like when you start your car when it's really cold, it's kind of like, I mean, not anymore, but older cars, when you go out and they're really cold, they kind of just like turn over for a while before they actually start. It's kind of like generating yang qi in the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of like that. You're just kind of like, all right, okay, let's keep going. So that's also one reason why Southeast Asia is much better, and also why spiritual esoteric shit comes from there, because the environment supports it. Whereas the environment here doesn't really support that kind of thing. So yeah. Anyways, Let me know if you have any info about Bali or if you've been there or any recommendations. Definitely send that my way. But yeah, it supports lacking awareness and neurotic extremism. That it definitely does. I think that's just a lot of our media. Media really really winds people up, man. Um, so yeah. But anyways, again, I'm gonna go eat food. I'm really surprised this many people showed up. But it's going to be one of those things where there's going to be people posting in the comments, why the fuck is this so long? Why is this an hour, 15 minutes? It's like, I was expecting to pop on for 5 minutes and have no one on here read my um, outline and just dip out. But it's been, I think at one point there was like 40 people on here, which might be the most live stream that um, has ever been on, because I don't think I've ever actually advertised a live stream. Even though I have an email list of tens of thousands of people, I don't think I've ever actually been like, hi, I'm on YouTube. Come join a live stream. I don't think I've ever done that. Um, Maybe I should, but yeah, so really surprised. Yeah, I mean, if anyone ever has any suggestions or requests for videos, you can post them somewhere. Because this is sort of where was thinking about doing something paid, or not even paid, but like $5, $2, something somewhat trivial, but like Patreon or Substack, something like that. And then doing like requests, like as that being one of the perks of like you pay whatever this insignificant fee and I'll do whatever video or you want, basically. Even if I'm just kind of like, yeah, I got no idea. I'll at least like give it a go. Um, just because like I don't think very highly of myself typically, just looking at, what I have and what I can do. But what I have realized is that, well, compared to a lot of people, is I can explain things somewhat decently well, or at least I can pretend to and talk a lot. Um, so it's at least kind of one thing I can potentially contribute, is being able to take things that are maybe complicated or seem weird or whatever and make them a little more tangible, or at least comprehensible. At least that's what I've been able to do for myself to a small extent. So it's like, okay, maybe I can do that. And then if it was kind of set up in that way, then I would feel kind of more engaged to do it. And then if it's kind of Patreon or Substack, meaning a little more private, then I can actually be more open on a personal level, because I don't really want to be open on a personal level to that much degree, because it's YouTube. And there's honestly a lot of fucking assholes on YouTube comments, say really harsh, mean things. And I just don't really need that. There's no point. But like, if it's like, oh, I can know who you are as a person, then it's like, okay, I can be open and share things about my actual personal life and what I'm doing and what I actually think. Because I try to be a little bit filtered when I'm on YouTube and whatever. So I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of an idea. What is the necklace that you're wearing? I talked about this earlier. This is, I'll post the link again. I just posted the link again. So check that. It's called the Ammo Fit. It's basically vagus nerve stimulation, basically. But it really quite noticeable, to be honest. I noticed a head change is within, I don't know, less than 5 minutes of wearing it. It was pretty much like felt everything kind of calm down and drop. So that is useful. And for people who have stress, anxiety, honestly, I haven't tried the focus setting. I think it kicked on once accidentally while I was asleep, but I don't really know. I've just honestly only used the green one. So I totally forgot there was even a red one. I'll try it sometime and see. I never really feel like, oh, I need to focus. So I never really think about it. I'm usually able to be focused on a task for at least a few hours without that much issue. But I'll give it a shot and see. But I recommend it because I'll have people email and be like, "Oh, well, I have anxiety and all this stuff. Like, I don't want to take like 20 herbs for it." I'm like, "Well, I mean, I definitely would like your money. That's cool, and these things might help, but this is a little more direct." And so I've noticed a big difference. My vagus nerve in that system was pretty fucked for most of my life. Let me just say that. Um, and noticed a difference, and recommend it. So check it out. And I tried 3 or 4 other different health devices as well that like kind of were okay, but didn't really do that much. And I ended up selling them uh, months ago on eBay or whatever. And this is the one that's really quite good. This and neurofeedback, I think, are quite useful. So I'll do a video about neurofeedback later on because I tried different modalities and some are good and some are a bit better, and it can be expensive and it can be reasonable. Like there's a range. So I'll probably talk about that because I think it's something that can actually genuinely really help a lot of people, not just mask symptoms, but alleviate and completely resolve issues, mental, emotional issues, psychological things, stress, PTSD, anxiety, depression, all that stuff. Your brain can actually correct itself and you can just kind of be done with it and move on with your life rather than just carrying it forever or spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars doing therapy forever to just talk about it and not necessarily address your nervous system. Not that talking about it isn't useful, but, you know, honestly, addressing your nervous system, it's kind of like, would you rather eat food or know why you're hungry? It's like, well, I'd rather eat food if I'm hungry, and then I don't really need to know why and spend 20 years analyzing why I'm hungry. Just give me the fucking food. Or it's like, if you're in a torture rack, would you rather be out of the torture rack, or would you rather understand to extreme detail why you're there in the first place? I'd probably rather be out of it, to be honest. Um, so yeah, but check the link and check my previous video that I posted today, like an hour ago. So, because I'm gonna try to do like a mix of product herbs, basically a mix of like stuff you can buy versus just mindset kind of stuff. Um, Probably more leaning towards the mindset psychology stuff rather than like buy stuff. Um, So, anyways, I don't see any other questions. Oh yeah, thoughts on the carnivore diet? It's kind of extreme, to be honest. But if you have to do it, I mean, one of the most famous people, I guess maybe the most famous person, is Jordan Peterson, who really kind of talked about it. And he's like, yeah, don't recommend it. It's not very pleasant. It's a huge pain in the ass, and it's extremely boring. But it's the only thing that helps me. So I kind of feel bad that he doesn't have access to better advice or resources, that he has to do something so extreme. Uh, so I wouldn't really recommend something quite extreme because it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Usually it's like it takes care of certain things, but like just eating meat for that long is going to probably have other side effects. But again, you got to do the best with what you have is what I'm saying. So yeah, it's weird. Somehow my computer is at 10%, but I'm supposed to have 15 hours of battery life, but I've been using it for far less. But maybe it's because I did videos and stuff. Been following you for almost 10 years. That's cool. What's the best for SIBO? I don't know. Say maybe the body ecology diet is like maybe a simple, comprehensive thing to get into. But I would check that out. And I'll post a link for some probiotics. Let me see. I want to find the actual link So, yeah, 1 second. Okay. All right, here we go. So if you go to Amazon, to go there, you want the Sporebiotic. I got. Okay, so if you're gonna take, first off, use extreme caution. These probiotics are extremely potent and effective. So if you have long-standing gut issues, take like a fraction of the recommended dosage on the bottle because they're really quite strong. And even if you are relatively healthy and you are going to take these, also start slow because they're quite potent and effective. But you need all three. Don't just take one. You need all three. So that's what I would say for like gut stuff. Fasting, I mean, it's cool if you're, I guess, overweight or excess, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not really my thing, but I also just don't really eat that much. Last month I eat like 2 meals, one at probably like 9 or 10, and then the other one at like usually 5 or 6 or 7, and that's it. And they're really not that big. So I guess that's like technically intermittent fasting, but I don't really worry about it. But I mean, okay. What effects would you expect reishi to have on athletic performance, if any? I mean, probably positive, I would say. If it chills you out and helps decrease inflammation, seems like probably a good thing. But again, that's subjective. It depends on the state that you need to get into to really operate at your best. So that's kind of a personal thing, but I don't think it would be negative to at all. Thoughts on shrooms and other psychedelics? I just talked about that earlier, so I'm not really gonna repeat it again. So I'll just say go back to the recording. I wish I could tell you when in this 90-minute whatever rant, but I don't recall the exact time. But it's kind of late, deep in the game, so I can talk about it later, and I'll actually probably make a video on it because I was talking about Aaron Rodgers and how he was, talking about he's doing ayahuasca and stuff like that. And it just really got me thinking, especially because psychedelics are getting more and more trendy these days and more normalized. And just, I've taken shrooms, weed, and like some other chemical is pretty much all I've done. And this was like in my 20s. But I've also microdosed psilocybin a few times. I mean, a few like rounds just to see what it was like. So I can definitely talk about that at a later date. Do you run? Yes, I do run. I think a little bit of running is sensible. Not a lot to where you're going to like harm yourself, but also depends on where your body is. For some people, that's too. I get runner's high when I run for 2 hours. I've injected DMT. Yeah. I mean, you definitely get that. I used to run cross country and track when I was in school, so I'm familiar with the runner's high. You also get the runner's low when you don't run. You bloop. So, anyways, thanks to everyone who showed up and asked questions and for generally being cool. Hopefully, we'll be back. And I'll do more notice ahead of time. That way we can maybe prepare questions and be more organized. So anyways, yeah, everyone have a good night. And thanks for tuning in. And be sure to check out the video I posted earlier today. And I'll have more videos coming soon.